I'm going to be talking about the Livestock Production Assurance Program and how we've been improving on-farm biosecurity and animal welfare. So we've made some really exciting changes to the LPA program in the last little while, which have really focused in on how we improve compliance and simplify things with producers. The Livestock Production Assurance Program is the cornerstone of the production sector's assurance around food safety, animal welfare and biosecurity on farm. Accredited producers get access to the national vendor declarations, which they use to move livestock through the supply chain. It's a big program. We've got over 171,000 producers accredited nationally, and 144,000, roughly, of those have cattle on their properties. It's a really big program, and that means we don't get to audit everyone to make sure everyone's following the requirements. What we do is have an accreditation process that producers come into if they're brand new, or they recommit to every so often. And we made some really big changes to the program. So the standards are a pivotal part of what we audit and how producers comply with the requirements that really underpin those declarations they make on those national vendor declarations. Part of the LPA program is to having a biosecurity plan and also around how animal welfare happens on farm. The standards are one part of the program. The other part is the program rules. And we've made some changes to the program rules really recently, which really invigorated and modernised the program. One of the key things we did was change the accreditation process that producers complete periodically. We moved away from a simple learning and quiz style assessment into a self-assessment where producers actually self-assess against the requirements of the program. And through this process, we're trying to drive that compliance, education and awareness about all of the requirements. And it's our main touch point with every single producer. Now, why is this relevant to biosecurity and animal welfare? Well, biosecurity plans are required under the program. And we do, when we audit, check for a biosecurity plan. Those biosecurity plans need to be documented and adequately address the risks to that property and implemented on farm. But what we were finding when we were auditing was that only 80%, in this case, of cattle producers actually had a plan when we tipped up to have an audit. Now, while we've seen marked and slight improvements in compliance, so roughly just under 2% from last financial year, we thought we need to make a bit of a change. This isn't working. And rather than go whole hog and mandate it at that accreditation process, we went with a softer approach because change is sometimes scary and we have a lot of producers to consider. So what we did was we built in a little bit of a prompter. So every time someone comes in and completes accreditation, which is now every 2 years, or producers starting out for the first time and getting that accreditation right from the start, we built a little bit of a check. So the system's smart enough now to check to see if they have a biosecurity plan on their account, and if they don't, they get a bit of a prompt to either complete it, provide one they might have had created somewhere else, or they can skip it and then answer a suite of questions about their biosecurity practices through the self-assessment. I nearly fell off my chair when we saw how many people were actually participating in this. So since the 1st of September, so not quite 12 months ago, over 27,000 biosecurity plans have been either completed online or uploaded to LPA accounts. So this is an enormous achievement that we were not really expecting, and it's insane. It's about 65% of producers doing this process. So we're hoping to see this really reflected in the audit trends and more producers having biosecurity plans on farm as we go through with audits next year. We've also got another suite of changes around how we do proactive compliance and targeting it on communications and education programs around those producers who don't have a biosecurity plan as well. We're also looking at how we change the accreditation process for onboarding new producers to make sure that we can get them to complete the biosecurity plan and set them straight right from the start. But that's biosecurity. What about animal welfare? Well, just last week actually, we released another change to the program, which was a requirement to have an animal welfare management plan. Why do we need an animal welfare management plan? Well, it actually came from industry, and they wanted to enhance the assurance LPA provides in relation to animal welfare. They wanted it based on the animal welfare standards, and they wanted us to deliver a tool that helped producers meet those requirements. So again, we looked at our accreditation process and we actually built something into the self-assessment process and a standalone tool in the LPA environment to make sure that we got that compliance right from the start. We're definitely not seeing a repeat on biosecurity plans. So the animal welfare requirements in the LPA standards now require documented animal welfare management plan, as well as having access to those standards and completing training. So we're really taking it up one notch in terms of getting producers to demonstrate how they meet those animal welfare standards. The tool itself is actually pretty cool. It took us a really long time to do. We worked with industry, key people across MLA and the production sector in order to build this tool that producers can answer themselves against the standards. So it actually presents the relevant standards based on what species the producer has on their LPA account, and then it also lets the producer select what husbandry activities they perform on farm relative to their operation. So for example, if they're not undertaking dehorning activities, they don't get questions about dehorning or presented with those information. So we tried to make it as dynamic and as simple as possible to complete to really reduce the compliance burden around this process. At the end of it, they get a documented animal welfare management plan, which is theirs, and they can edit, they can update it, they can print it out, they can do what they like with it. And it really steps it up a level to help both producers understand their requirements and also help them demonstrate their credentials in terms of animal welfare. The tool itself is also available standalone in producer accounts, so they can go in and complete it at any time. And if they do that, it actually removes that requirement from doing it at accreditation the next time round. It only takes about another 10 minutes to their accreditation process, so it's not overly complicated, and we've tried to make it, again, as simple and useful as possible. It has been a part of LPA since just Monday last week, so the 23rd of June, and in that time we've seen just over 1,500 animal welfare management plans completed. What we're looking to do is start auditing that requirement come the 1st of September and helping producers on board as quickly as possible. Once we've got everyone with a plan in place, then we'll start looking at how they're being implemented in relation to those plans. So it's a bit of a staged approach, but it's important to make sure everyone's brought along on the journey. But that's the end of the presentation. Thank you. If there are any questions, I have time, right?
There is time for questions for Elizabeth, if there are any questions. And if there aren't any questions... Excellent. Thanks, Stephanie.
Just because you always have to have a question, Elizabeth. Talking about the beef sustainability framework and same in dairy, often the expectations for customers and consumers go sort of over and above those minimum animal welfare standards. Is that a role for ISE or the LPA accreditation system to potentially support some of those data reporting into the more aspirational things such as the sustainability framework? Could that get built into it as a optional module for producers that could then be used as a data capture source, or does that sit completely outside of the work that you guys do?
So there's probably a lot to unpack in that. So we have, we report into the framework already on animal welfare awareness and also biosecurity plan completion. But I think where it should sort of shift to is around how effective those measures are and measuring and having data around that. So part of the reason we actually built an electronic version and a forcing, or not forcing, but we're making it inherent in the process is so we can capture that data in a really structured way. So if there are reporting needs out of the standards, the program, we can actually provide that at a statistical level to give that reporting link in. The other part around what are the higher requirements, how do we look at best practice and where we want to move to, the tool we built around animal welfare, we can change that really simply. We've built a really easy to use system so we can manage what the standards need to look like. So if there are changes in the future, we can make them really quickly. If there's, a market requirement and a value-based proposition around needing to provide more data or credentials around animal welfare, we can build that into the program as what we're calling them voluntary modules, which also came about as part of the new program rules, which let producers opt in to do extra and be able to share that information. And so we're in a bit of a discovery pattern at the moment around what those need to be based on the market. Thanks.
Thanks for that. These documents, like a biosecurity plan and this animal welfare management plan, they have the risk of becoming a one-time thing that gets done, ticked a box, and then it goes into a drawer and never gets used again or looked at until the next time you get audited and then you blow the dust off it. Yeah. Is there a way that this system can make these more active, live documents that are referred to and used a bit more?
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, we've got a touch point which is quite critical with producers every 2 years. So, and getting that accreditation process in front of them and making sure that they're not seeing the same thing over and over again is part of that, keeping it front of mind. So, you complete a biosecurity plan, you complete your animal welfare management plan. Next 2 years later, well, have you reviewed it? Have you implemented it? Let's change what the producers are self-assessing against at that next touch point. And then, of course, we've got our audit program that runs across a sample of producers as well to look at how they're implementing those things and how effective they are. So I think there's a multi-pronged approach in terms of how we do it, but it's always that, as Sally said, the adoption and application of those things is that really struggle part to get a massive cohort of people doing more.